Kevin, and thank you for having this session for just something about construction and life. And as Dr. Kevin said, my name is Wafi, and it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, J.C. Foley, and J stands for James. And I'm always inspired by people who have life learning attitude, learning for life. And after, I don't say he's old, he's not traditional student. And he came back to sit down and get his BS and he get his master's now. And I'm encouraging him to do his PhD very soon. So maybe he will be one of the faculty members very soon here, hopefully. So without much ado, I would ask you please to join me and welcome JC for today. So.
Very much. As Dr. Wabi said, my name's J.C. Foley. Oops, I started at the wrong end, didn't it?
These guys like short lectures.
Yeah, that's kind. And I'm honored to be here, really. This is new to me. I've never ever talked about myself, so if I don't get a little nervous or something, bear with me. And frankly, when Dr. Wabi asked me to talk to you guys, I wasn't real sure what I could do to help you, guide you along your path, and that's what I'd like to do in some small way, show you some little wisdom or kernel of knowledge to help you along your way and help you achieve your goals. But I'm really much the same as you. I'm a student, trying to better myself, for my family, maybe even for society a little bit, and I think that's all what we're all here to do. The main difference between you and me is I'm old. I'm older. I'm old enough to be your dad, but and they say with age comes wisdom. I'm not sure I believe that. I think wisdom is something we see probably till our dying day. But they also say experience is the best teacher. Because I've lived longer, I do have some more experiences than you. And beyond that, and more importantly than that, I feel it's the duty of us that have a little more experience to share with those who have a little less. Thus is the way that humankind has advanced ever since its beginning. So, matter of fact, I heard a song on the radio the other day, and I thought it was appropriate. Now it's country. I don't know, is country music not cool? But anyway, that's what I listen to mostly. I listen to a little bit of everything, but the song is actually called "Always Stay Humble and Kind." And of course, that's good advice in and of itself. But the last line says, "When you're getting where you're going, don't forget, turn back around, help the next one in line, and always stay humble and kind." So that's kind of what I'm here to try to do a little bit, is to help the next ones in line, you guys. Now, who am I to do that? As Dr. Wabi said, I'm just a 46-year-old grad student, and my master's will be in technology, and my focus is training and development with a work performance improvement certificate. And that's really just a mouthful. That means what I hope to do someday is teach, maybe at a community college. It's essentially teaching better processes, leadership skills, and that type of thing. And if not at a junior college, then perhaps as a consultant in performance improvement or as a training manager at an industry. So you guys are in AET, right? Most everybody in the same major. Well, and this is a materials class, or materials.
Introduction to construction.
Introduction to construction. Okay. Well, I started in that field at Lakeland years ago. I'm not going to talk about building stuff. Building stuff, yes, but more about building yourselves, and most importantly about building others. I said my whole life had been pretty much spent in construction, starting from the very youngest age I can remember. I put that tape measure up there because it just amazes me that most people, including me, can't remember learning to walk or talk or whatever. I mean, I can't. But it occurs to me because I hired a lot of people over the years, of all ages, that had no idea how to read a tape measure. And that shocked me, because I truly can't remember not knowing how to read a tape measure. I don't remember being taught it. My dad was a carpenter who built houses, and we helped as kids, and so I guess that's where I learned. And the other strange picture up there is just kind of to hammer that home. I remember when I was probably 11 or 12 or something like that, Dad and I were putting in a water hydrant. And Dad was old school, modest, you didn't talk about off-color things. He said, "JC, hand me that female fitting, if you would." I handed it to him, I knew what it was, but I asked him, I said, "Dad, what female fitting, male fitting?" He looked at me real serious and said, "Think about it." And that was pretty much my speech on the birds and the bees. So even Ed revolved around construction in some way. So anyway, pretty well ingrained in me. So I went to Paris High School, just down the road, not too far, and graduated in 1987. And then I went to Lakeland for architectural construction technology, and I liked it. I had the same kind of classes a lot that you're taking here. I noticed CAD and different things, which we had the very early days, RoboCAD. Anyway, I found that you didn't make much money out of that program, at least not then, because the U of I graduates full-fledged architects that are willing to work for nothing because they have to do an internship. So you got a 4-year architect or a 2-year tech. So I didn't want to get out of there and not make anything, and I'd always had an interest in the law, believe it or not, so I came to Eastern with a political science major and a pre-law minor. I was going to be a lawyer. And I was really gung-ho, and got into it, did well, enjoyed it. And I always worked, so I commuted back and forth. I guess one day just kind of had an epiphany, it just occurred to me, man, I don't want to be a lawyer. They don't deal in anything but conflict and unhappiness and kind of really just tearing stuff down. And I'm a builder, so I don't want to do that. Well, I was really disenchanted, kind of lost. I didn't know what to do. So I just quit coming to class, just dropped out. Not a wise decision. But anyway, so what I ended up doing was going to a number of little jobs, really. Retail sales, I didn't like that too well. And I worked at a factory, it's gone now, but it was an injection molding factory. And that's kind of where I learned some of the very early introduction to the total quality management stuff that is really swept every place now. But anyway, I worked there for a while, and then they put me on third shift, and I didn't like that. I was young, so I quit, and I went back to work in what I knew. I went back to work in construction. My dad had retired by this time, so just a guy down the road named Tony. I went to work for him. I learned a lot from him, as well as my dad. And I worked for him for a couple of years. And then I went, well, one day we were installing windows. This is irony or fate or whatever, which does truly play a role in life, I've found. Fate or the man upstairs or whatever. But we were actually installing windows. And I was driving back from lunch, and there was a sign, a marquee in front of the local KC Hall, and it said, "Simon to Windows, now hiring." I'd never heard of Simon to, maybe none of you had. It's not really a big name because they sell to wholesalers rather than homeowners directly, and you won't see them in Menards or whatever, like you would Anderson or Pelican. But they're a big company now, or they were anyway. And so on a whim, I thought, what the heck, I'll try it. And when I went in, the lady, of course, small town, I knew the lady that was hiring or actually interviewing and doing interviews on the spot. She said, "You'd be perfect for our bay and bow window shop because this is a bay window right here. And they're vinyl. They're mostly vinyl, but the headboard and the seat board and the other parts are finished wood, oak and birch and different finishes. So it took carpentry skills to build them." So I got hired. So just kind of on a whim. Now Simonton in '94, when I got hired, was one plant in West Virginia. And they hired an original 60 people and sent us all to that plant to train for a whole month. So that was quite an experience. And they not only trained us in the technical, but they had a real culture there it was family. So I learned that. And when we got back to Paris, we had an empty building essentially. So I got to hire people and train people and start from scratch. And if you ever get a chance, and the opportunity to write the company something like, and you can get in on a ground floor like that, that's the way to go. It's hard, but it's good. And so I did, and I ran the bay shop for a while. Ended up getting promoted to supervisor pretty quickly. I ran what they called the bay shop for a while, and then there's all kinds of different styles of windows. So I ran lots of different lines and window screen line and stuff, and ended up getting promoted to the glass line manager. And we make what they call insulated glass units, and that's this part, the double pane glass. And without getting down into the weeds, it's a spacer system between two panes of glass that's hermetically sealed, so it increases the R value. And it's a pretty technical process, and a lot of people, and we got to do some real neat stuff with the processes and the machines. It's a building material. It's all vinyl window, and it's pretty interesting. So at the end there, I was managing about 140 employees, give or take, because the season fluctuates the number, with about 10 supervisors and group leaders. And I was, 30, maybe 28. I was young, a lot of responsibility, a lot of pressure but I loved it. The reason I loved it is because of the way Simonton was run. First of all, it was owned by one man. His name was Sam Ross, and that really doesn't matter, except that he could set it up and made a continuum of everything was the same, not a bunch of different chiefs, cooks, and stew. And the main thing about Simonton, one of the distinctive factors was it delivered windows in 7 days. And nobody else could do it then, and I don't think they can do it now. I don't think there's anybody that can. We would take orders today, Monday, the 11th, and build them and ship them anywhere in the nation in 7 days. And we didn't sacrifice quality in the face of expedition and quantity. Matter of fact, quality was everything. See there, they won several of these awards, which were pretty prestigious. Made a lot to us. We had a mantra, or the main vision or mission of the company was quality products, on time, complete. And with a 7-day delivery, that meant you work some long hours, especially during the startup, because we were all new, the equipment was new, everything was new. Even the plant flooded when it rained. It was anyway. But so we'd sleep on tables and just start over the next day. And that's tough and it's no fun. But when you get there and see it start to work, it was really great. So really kind of along with that, everybody just had kind of a can-do attitude. Let's give it a try. And we got to use some cutting-edge technology for that industry. To give you an idea of that focus on quality and that willingness to try new things and that cohesiveness, Simonton, when I started in '94, had one plant in West Virginia, and then they built the Paris plant. And by 2005, probably, they had 7 plants. And they'd gone from about $50 million a year in revenue to over $500 million. So a 10-fold increase in 10 years. It was fascinating. And that's all good, but I'm not here to do a bio on Simonton. What does that mean for us, or for me? But that growth meant I got to go to all plants all over the country. And you'd be amazed how different people are in the workplace here versus, say, California, or here versus Florida, or Oklahoma. So you got to see different ways and different cultures, really, even though it was all right here in America. We also got to spread our corporate culture of, let's get this done, take pride. And really it was a good life. It was a taste of kind of how the big shots live. We had a corporate jet, and they buzz us off in the corporate jet to go to the different plants or product shows. We get to make decisions with a group of people about buying multi-million-dollar equipment. That's pretty heady stuff. And it was a good experience. And I wasn't that old, and it worked out really good. The other part of that is we were all young. lower and middle managers anyways, got up and it was a little different. But so we played hard. We worked hard, but we never seemed to be too tired to go to the bar afterwards, party on the weekends. That was fun, but as you'll see, that has a price later in life.
Did you needed did you needed to have a degree in business or something?
What's that?
Did you need a degree in business to do that?
No, not then. Now you do. And yeah, they wouldn't hire me today because I don't have the right degree. Although I had 13 years experience in a different company now, and I'll explain that. Let's see. So kind of the lessons assignments, and well, they're really countless. In 13 years, I learned a lot of stuff, but I tried to limit them to these four. Customer focus, and that's a TQM principle, but I didn't even know it was a TQM principle at the time. Total Quality Management is what that stands for. But literally, we would jump through flaming hoops for the customers, even if the cost was bigger. I can remember if there was a job being held up out in Nebraska or South Dakota because of a window issue, a multi-million-dollar payment on a housing project, big subdivision, because of one or two windows, we would put a window on that jet and fly it right to the place. Or I remember doing a job, it was 9 windows, but they were massive windows for a house in Houston, I think it was. And I won't go into too much detail, but the glass, the nature of the glass itself caused it to look wavy. It was giant tempered glass. The customer kept complaining and reordering. And we made it, I think, 9 times. It was like 10 units. We would shut down a complete production line to make that. The plant manager later came and told me that job probably cost us $30,000 in material. I didn't include the labor and shutting down the line and getting it there and all that. That was crazy to me, and as the guy who had to shut down his line, it pissed me off. But I realized that preserved the reputation for, it was a short-term loss for a long-term gain. So, and the other thing, which we kind of talked about, or hit upon when Dr. Walby asked me the question, they trained all the time. No matter how busy we were, we'd take time to train not only leaders in the company, but potential people who showed promise. And that could mean bringing in consultants from outside for a week and training us, or actually taking us and shipping us to Chicago or someplace for a seminar. They spent a lot of time and money, and that allowed them then to promote from within. And I'm a big believer in promoting from within, because it gives the everyday person an incentive to excel, do better. And because they've been trained little by little, then they're ready to take the reins of leadership. And it's also the best way to continue that culture. Pass it down, just like father to son, so to speak, or mother to daughter. So, on the bottom one there, I've got, and that touches on the importance of culture. And again, it goes back to quality and treat your people well, and contributing resources for the long term. And the final one there is the long-term vision. And that, what I mean by that is, and I touched on it, is you have to be willing sometimes, or at least this is my opinion, to spend money that may not immediately return on investment, like training or a piece of equipment that might be kind of expensive and cutting edge, almost like a prototype. But it pays off in the long run, and the proof of that is in the growth of Silent and how much we all really love working there. And the best way to kind of illustrate that for me is the contrast. Because in 2006, Simonton sold to a giant company. It's a holding company, and you may never heard the name of it. I hadn't. Fortune Brands is the name of the company, but you've heard, I'm sure, of some of the companies that they owned. The golf companies, Titleist, FootJoy, Jim Beam, Booze, De Kuiper, Schnapps. So they were big, and their mission and goal was one thing: short term, completely short term, like 4 months short term, 3 months short term. They wanted to milk every dollar. And they didn't have mad half stream about it. They'd have meetings with the whole plant, say we've got to get the shareholders dividends up. And that's what they did. And they wouldn't replace equipment, wouldn't update equipment, wouldn't train people, treated people terribly. And it was just like night and day. They crushed the culture from the top. And the long-term result of that was when Sam sold the company, the owner sold the company in 2006, he sold it for $640 million. And I read in our local paper, it was last year, early last year or late 2014. And so in 7 to 8 years, Fortune Brands then sold it to whoever owns it now for $137 million. So they lost $503 million in 7 years. They didn't really lose it because they milked it. But in the meantime, I don't have numbers, but market share and all that. And they lost a lot of good people. I do know that because I live in a small town. So that just kind of is a contrast for you between the two. And for me, what that meant is I just couldn't work there anymore, right? They sold in 2006 and I quit in 2007. I just couldn't take it. They didn't care about the people, they didn't care about the product, they didn't care about the future. So I quit. And I decided to go out on my own at, I don't know, I was in my 40s, late 30s, I think. And I'm still out on my own. The way we started out was me and the plant manager from Simonton. He had retired when Simonton sold. And I had made some money from the Simonton stock. So we both invested quite a chunk of money and we're going to flip houses. You all know what that means. You know, buy a fixer-upper, fix it up, sell it for a profit as quickly as possible. Well, if you notice the year, it was 2007. Great timing. Couldn't be better. But 2008, the housing crash hit pretty soon, and the Great Recession. So anyway, between that and my lack of business skills, I pretty much went broke. Not broke, really. As a matter of fact, Art, the guy that I was in business with, he had put his retirement money in there. So when things started really going south and we couldn't sell anything, I gave him my half of the properties. That way he could sell them, and he ended up breaking even. I didn't make any money. Probably lost a few years off his life, but he at least had his retirement recouped. But I was kind of left holding the bags. It was pretty bad. Didn't have any money and not many prospects. So anyway, we dissolved the corporation. We remained good friends, and but I myself kind of fell in a pretty dark spot. I drank too much. I always liked to drink for fun, but then at this point I was kind of down in the dumps. I drank too much and ended up getting 2 DUIs. Thank God nobody was hurt. But it was a pretty low point. That's not fun. That's no place to be. So if you can avoid that, try it at all costs. But you know, you get to, I was at a certain age where I didn't really know what I wanted to do, where I was going, and most importantly, I felt like I didn't have much of a purpose. But life goes on, and you get back up and dust yourself off, or you roll up in a ball and die, and I chose the former rather than the latter, thankfully. And I put the picture up there because this is something that occurred to me during that kind of dark period, or towards the end of it. I put the ladder and the scaffolding up there because everybody says, oh, you're climbing the ladder to success. I don't think that's true at all. I don't think that's an accurate depiction. A ladder, you go, you buy, it's a certain length, it's a certain width, every step is even, it's pre-made. To me, the path or the way to success is more like a scaffolding. I don't know if anybody ever worked on scaffolding, but you got to build it yourself. And you build it to your own particular purpose and need. So that to me, when somebody says, you know, he's climbing the ladder to success, no two ladders are the same. So it's not a ladder, it's a scaffolding. So if you seem like sometime you're off path or off course, just change your scaffolding. So anyway, for me, I reformatted the business and decided instead of trying to flip houses, obviously, it would just be a for-hire carpentry business or construction. Small, not big. And so we did, and actually kind of accidentally fell into a niche that's endless, seemingly endless, because we do small jobs, skilled jobs, but small jobs. You know, big, even in town, big contractors in Paris, that's not very big, really. But they want to build a whole house, or they're specialized. They're masonry, concrete, drywall, electric, plumbing, and don't cross. But with my little company, we'll do a small job, and rather than say like a drywall company where that's all you do, go in, slap the drywall up, tape it, mud it, finish it, maybe put some knock down on it or whatever, and that's all you do every day. We go in, frame the wall, maybe wire the wall, drywall it, mud it, tape it, hang cabinets, trim it out, maybe put down a tile floor or something if it's a kitchen. So it requires a more wide variety of skills, but it also requires a variety, and that makes it nice. It really does. And we've got a waiting list past September, and I'm turning down work, so there is a niche out there for that, and that was just kind of lucky. And the beauty of having a small business was that I was able to come back to school, and first of all, I quit drinking in 2010. But the fun was over, it was no longer, it was time. So I did, and I decided to come back and get my bachelor's degree. Now, I took just general studies because I really didn't know what to take exactly, but I focused on organization, OPD classes, they call them. I took all but a few were OPD classes, which kind of translates into my intention of grad school, which is what I'm at now. So, let's see. Okay, it's just so you know where I'm at now. I'll be finishing my second semester, and I should graduate next spring. So that's where I'm at now. It was not easy to get there, but you eventually do. So if I can just give you some things that I hope you might take away from this. The first thing is that saying, can't never did anything. My dad said that to me 1,000 times, if he said it once. If I'd ever say, oh, I can't do that, he'd say, can't never did anything. And I never really understood, it usually ticked me off. I never really understood what he meant. But now I think I do. What it really means is you only get one shot at this whole life. And to look back when you get older, even older than me, and have a long list of I wish I would have tried, I wish I would have, I wish I would have. So by saying can't, you're saying I won't try. And I think that's what he meant. So I hope you might remember that can't never did anything. And just for my life, I mean, I could have said I can't quit my high-paying job at Simon to go out on my own. You know, I can't start my own business. I can't quit drinking, pick myself back up, go back to college at 40 years old plus, while rebuilding that business. And I sure can't go to graduate school and teach. And up until today, I wasn't sure I could come up in front of a bunch of college students and talk to them, but here I am. So, bottom line is no regrets. And this is kind of a borrow off of anybody familiar with dirty jobs and micro. This is something I've heard from him, and I agree with it 100%. Used to be when, at my age, and they may still have it in high schools, in your counselor's office, it would say, work smart, not hard. And usually this guy was somebody like me, worked had a hammer in his hand or a hard hat on. And that's fine. But what it really implied to me then, and still does, and that evidently to micro too, is that people who work with their hands or art, some liberal arts, whatever, are second-class citizens, are not deserving of respect. Now, I've met guys that are putting up wainscoting, that are 70 years old, laying Carrera marble tile. They're masters at their work. They take pride in it, and they are smart. They work hard and smart. And they take the time and the pride to do it right. My dad, another thing he said, and I'm sure you've been told, there's time to do it, there's time to do it right. And truer words were never spoken. Third thing is failure is an option. Now, nobody wants to fail. Certainly nobody sets out to fail. I didn't want to fail, and I don't want any of you to fail. I want you to succeed. But that's not the way it usually goes in every case. Sam Ross, the guy that owns Simonton, and I didn't know this until quite a ways into it. We had a stockholders meeting. He was up front giving his little speech. And he said, it's about time. Because he, prior to finding the gold mine of Simonton, had failed miserably 7 times in business. Which, the more I learned, that is not uncommon. That's not the exception among the extremely successful. It's usually the rule. Or it's at least as common. And of course me, I failed in completing school and finding the right path back when I was your age. Failed at my initial attempt at that business. I pretty much failed myself, the good Lord, my family, and my friends by getting in that rut and drinking too much and getting DUIs. Having said all that, failure does at least 3 things, in my opinion. It certainly shows us what not to do the next time. It toughens us up for the next challenge that comes along, you know, the school of hard knocks and all that. And perhaps most important about what failure teaches us is that it makes us appreciate success that much more when we finally achieve it. If you think about it, what would a beautiful spring day be without a winter, cold, gray, bitter winter to compare it to? And that's kind of, when nobody wants to fail, it is an option and can even make you better. I've talked about being a builder, because I'm a builder, and so are you. You're building yourselves, and you'll build lots of different things, not necessarily tangible things. There's more to this statement than meets the eye, in my opinion. You'll be a builder of stuff. We've talked about that, whatever that stuff is, whether it's something like what I do, or maybe something in a factory, or working in the service industry. As I've said and tried to impress upon you, that's all important. It's all part of an important system. And it's worth taking time and doing right, and there's no shame in it. Certainly at all. And the one thing that I have learned, and it's a platitude that they'll talk about, customer focus. But it's true. And kind of a golden rule that I kind of come up with on my own. Do unto the customer as you would have done to you, because really, they deserve it, and it will pay off in the long run. Be a builder of yourself, of course, and there's lots of ways to do that. I've just jotted down a few here. Always take the opportunity to experience new things, new places, and new people, and new ideas. Build yourself a set of principles to live by. Stick to them without fail. At the same time, be open-minded and be willing to listen to the ideas of others who will be enriched for you. Always stay hungry for knowledge and learning. Stay curious and engaged. And I know, believe me, I proved I know, that seems hard at your age. Been in school a long time, most of you. But as you get older, you'll find that learning keeps you engaged and gives you purpose. And I encourage you to. Well, that doesn't mean you have to read volumes of books. There's lots of ways. You know, when I was learning, there wasn't any internet. You know, so stay engaged. And then there's volumes written about this as well. And I won't go into it too much. But it's important to. You're all in college, and you're going to be managers of some kind, leaders. Be a leader, not just a manager. And there's classes on that you can take, not to mention the internet again. And the one thing I've found that I still struggle with, and I think is the key to being a leader rather than just a manager, is something they call emotional intelligence. And that's a deep subject, and it's hard to acquire, a high, what they call EQ. I encourage you to look into that as you advance and try to develop your emotional intelligence. And finally, to me, the most important part, that's why I'm here, is at school. I think it's all about, really, I it's why we're all here. It would be best if that was why we were all here. And I think you guys can and must try to do this in your career, and of course in your families when you have them. And you know, my dad's passed away now, and I'm getting older. But I realize now that's what he was trying to do. That's what a lot of good teachers tried to do. My mom, you know, everybody, grandparents. Another thing important is I've learned that people in the workplace, and in general, in the workplace, they truly do want to do a good job. And there's bad apples, and there's a reasonable number of them. But I would just say, don't let the bad apples spoil your barrel. In other words, don't become a cynic. Most people are good people, and just try to find the good in them, and then match the job to them if you get that opportunity, or match them to the job, or both, if possible. So I'm going to close with this. Forgive me, I'm not going to preach to you, but I think this is important, especially since I'm a carpenter. Jesus was a carpenter. He was the son of a carpenter. Now, whether you believe he was also the son of God, that's up to you, and I'm not going to push anything. But I think most of us can agree that the teachings of Jesus changed the world forever. And they're pretty good rules to live by. And I believe his being a carpenter, and his dad being a carpenter, no accident. He was a builder. And there's a story in the Bible when Jesus is building his ministry and looking for disciples, so to speak. And he's walking along the Sea of Galilee, and he comes along a guy named Simon, who we know as Peter now. And he's trying to talk Peter into coming with him, being part of his crusade, if you will. And Peter's like, man, I'm a fisherman. I don't know anything about this. And Jesus said, come with me, and I'll make you a fisher of men. So that's what I guess I'd like to leave you with today. When you go forth from here, start your career, go be a builder of people. That's all I have. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Bankrupt and such.
It's just me and my saws and my tool belt. And actually, no, we had 4 guys working for us, and I had to lay 2 of them off. And the 4th guy was really kind of part-time as needed. And the guy that knew the most and that I could actually trust to do a job while I could do another job, we just started small, and he stayed with me. First of all, he was, I think, like 24. He didn't have a lot of bills and stuff, so he didn't need 40 hours. And I'll tell you, that's the hardest thing when you're just a one-man operation, is to make that jump from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3, because when you hire somebody, you know, you're committed to try to provide them a living. And when you're small, you know, that's nerve-wracking. So that's probably, I'd say, the single greatest challenge. Luckily, I still had a lot of my dad's tools, and he had everything. So when I wasn't in debt, I didn't lose my tools or my truck or whatever, but you know, it was tough getting started back up. And you know, I grew up in a small area, so people knew I was struggling. I had farmer friends and stuff. Hey, I need a lean-to built on, or I need people, as I say, people are good. And they're, okay, he's struggling. See if we can't throw him some work, and it works out. It does.
If you ever get the chance or the opportunity to be able to open up your own business, try to.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would. It's tough. It's a struggle, but it's also freedom. I mean, I couldn't be doing this. I couldn't be going to school for grad school. In most cases, you know, without being able to adjust my own schedule. A lot of companies, Simonton, for example, I mean, they reimbursed you and they wanted you to go to school, which I didn't do. Now I'm going in debt for it. I should have done it back then, but yeah, you know, that sounds nice, but we were, you know, working 7 to 7 or later, and we don't have school on weekends, so Yeah, it works for me. It's tough. It's not easy. But my dad had a best friend who had, I think, 6 kids before the internet. And he went to night school with 6 kids and became a lawyer and was our state's attorney. So it could be done. I'm not near that. My sister, she graduated from here just a couple, 3 years ago. And she had 3 kids. She got a bachelor's in nursing at night while working. She was already an RN. But, so it's possible, but for me, it worked out really great, you know. And being your own boss is nice, but it's also hard. There's nobody to back you up. No paycheck guaranteed. Yes.
How did you find the guys that were working for you at your small company? Were they your friends, or did you actually like post ads and try and hire? You know,
No,
outside
I never
logistics?
actually posted that. I didn't have to. Paris is 8,900 people, I think. And but the first guy that worked for me was the son of my boss from Simonton, who was just graduating high school. So it worked out that way. I do see ads in our local paper, however. The thing is, as I said, you know, and this is nothing against you, I don't know, maybe you all, but they don't teach the things they used to teach in high school. We used to have a lot of shop classes or and stuff. Maybe you guys did.
I mean, you guys have had shop class in high school.
That's awesome. I mean, we did. I used to
have.
hate it because I was at home using, you know, router tables and stuff, and I had to cut a dado with a back saw. You know, I was frustrated, but I took it, and it taught me a lot of things, you know. But they've kind of done away with that. As a matter of fact, Simonton, we'd have stock windows, what they call stock windows. And it just meant that it was a perfectly good window, but the customer ordered it wrong. Not ordered wrong size, wrong color, wrong style, whatever. Perfectly good window. We had no use for it. So we just warehoused them because they're custom built. They're not standard 3 foot by 5 foot. They're custom built to each opening. And we would give them to a local high school to auction off. And they made literally, I don't know, millions of dollars. You know, we had thousands and thousands. We made 3,000 windows a day during the business season. That was just in Paris. Company-wide, it was between 10 and 15,000. So that's even, you know, a 1% goof-up rate. That's a lot of windows. And so we donated them to the school. And they bought lots of computers, you know, and that's great. And they set up their own TV station and radio station with it and all that. And then they were kind of running out of things to do, and they came to us. And we said, yeah, we'll help you set up some classes, like practical classes, like, well, how to read a tape measure. And, you know, we use saws, like a chop saw, except they were pedal activated, and everything's cut on a 45. You got a 21-foot stick of vinyl, and it comes out, and you step on the pedal. And instead of just having one blade, you got 2 45 blades. And you got to set stops, and everything had to be made within a 1/16 of an inch. And it was computerized, so you also had to know, you know, that 3/8 is 0.375, or 9/16 is 0.5625. And that's just memorization, because a computer never read 9/16, you know, so it was, yeah, but anyway, we tried to get the school to kind of start setting up some more of these type of classes, and they were like, nah, we're not interested. So we're like, well, okay. But, so I don't know what the trend is now, if we're getting back into it. I hope so, I do.
When you get a job, how do you price it right?
How do I price it right? Well, I don't do bids. I won't. I mean, if we did big jobs, we'd have to. But what I do is an estimate. Because now, if it's a new construction, I can do it because you don't have as near as many things you might run into. But in remodeling, I found that nobody complains that we do what I call cost plus. I don't know if that's the. I say, here's what I think it's going to cost based on what I can see, and I ask for a certain percentage down, and then. You know, you inevitably run into more than you can see because of what's behind the drywall or under the flooring. Did a job not too long ago. Can you put new tile in the bathroom? Sure. We did, and I tore up about 3 or 4 layers of underlayment, linoleum, and I don't know. The first layer was just a sheet of water. and every layer in between, water, water, water. The wax ring on the toilet had been leaking because, and this is where I spend a lot of my time, this is why I say take time to do it right. I redo what somebody else has done half-assed, pardon my French, before. There's so many out there that just slap it together. And in this case, the previous contractor, they made a laundry room into a laundry room bathroom into a laundry room bathroom half bath. So they'd move the toilet and cut floor joists. The toilet setting, I mean, I'll tell you what was holding up the floor was the soil pipe. That jammed wood under it. So that whole bathroom, we'd tear the whole floor out. I mean, it's 10 times the money that's why I do estimates. Yeah, there's no way, I mean, I can't afford not to. I can't afford to say, oh yeah, you know, you got 45 square feet here of tile at $10 a square foot or whatever. And when you turn out, you've got to read everything.
You work with the word of mouth or written, signed, and dated to contracts.
They're signed.
So you don't go word of mouth.
I learned that early on. Dad, when he built houses, Dad worked full-time for the state, worked for the Department of Public Health for Illinois and Champaign. So he built houses on nights and weekends. I don't know, he had a work ethic second to none. But he would find, you know, the good old boy handshake thing worked so long. And then they would say, oh, I decided I want a window there, or I want to step out the foundation there and add a stoop, or big money, you know, and change the whole thing. And so Dad, very quickly, you know, we won't change anything without a written change order, which I think is not uncommon. But, so no, I mean, every little estimate I do, you know, it's got a little legalese at the bottom that says, this is based on what is on a visual inspection, only on what can be seen. You know, you might get into mold, or you might get into like this, or anything. Somebody that cuts floor joists. I ended up having to crawl in that crawl space, in that case, and dig pilings, you know, on my knees, digging buckets of concrete. I'm getting a little old for that. But, and then raise it slowly back up. It was amazing how the doors in the house began to work after that. All of them were stuck because of literally that one joist, because on that one joist, the washer, the dryer, and the bathtub, and the stool set on that one joist that they cut. That's a lot of weight. It wasn't bridged over to the sister joists. Anyway, so it's a challenge. It's for everything, has its challenges and frustrations. But, you know, and I'll be honest, people ask me, one thing I hate to do is drywall. I hate it. But I'm pretty good at it, unfortunately, and I get quite a few jobs, especially, I just did it was master bedroom, master bath. And that's all they wanted. They just wanted new drywall, they were going to paint it, put flooring down and on. Okay, you couldn't normally get a contractor to do that. So I can kind of charge what I want, you know, but I don't like doing it. So people say, do you like what you do? And I'll say, I like when I'm done with what I do. And that's, you know, because when you're ever going, you know, there's not much, but when you're done, man, it looks nice. Even drywall, which isn't a great challenge once you get the knack of it. But I like trimming. I like finished carpentry. That's my thing. But, and in this state, which I think is crazy, I've never understood it. I can wire your house and I can build your house, but I can't plumb your house or roof your house because I'm not licensed. Why that is, I can burn it down or shock you to death, but with bad wiring. But, and another thing I did in between, because I thought it'd be a great job, was it's just an online course to get my home inspector's license. So you know, I don't know if anybody bought a home yet, but a lot of times the bank will require you to get a home inspection for the bank, for the loan. And I did that, and so that taught me a lot of stuff I really didn't know. You know, even Tony, the guy I worked for, he said, I'm going to get one of those, because there wasn't any in person. There was only one guy here in Charleston that had to, at that time. And one of my best friends, a realtor that I grew up with, he said, you need to get your license. So I did, and you know, I mean, there's things, I was looking at that before class. See, I don't know anything about HVAC, but you have to know a little bit about HVAC, like geothermal pumps and boiler systems. And enough to say that's not the code, you know, so I learned a lot that way. And Dad always did his own electrical, and most of his own plumbing. But that was before things changed. So I know how to do it, but I don't have a license to do it. But I inevitably get asked to do it on lots of jobs, and I just have to tell them no. You know, you just have to, because they'll run you, they'll find you. And roofing, unfortunately, I don't like roofing either. It's an okay job, but, you know, roof's a roof, I like roof. No, I mean, I'd love to try a slate roof, I've never done that, or copper or something like that, but.
Would you sub any jobs that you don't like?
Well, plumbing, yes, I've done a lot of plumbing. And in the past, when we were flipping houses, I subbed quite a few. But the jobs we do, you know, like right now, we're putting on a deck. Not really any subbing to do there. We're also, I just redid a soffit. This is amazing to me. On a house, but this is the 4th generation living there. And the house was built in 1874. And the soffit and stuff was all bad up around the top. And raccoons were getting in. So we went in and replaced it with aluminum and vinyl, with all the vinyl crown mold and stuff. It also had, I don't know what exact count, maybe 30 or 40. I almost brought one to show you. Corbels, and you know what a corbel is? It's an L bracket. It's a curly view L brackets, but up high, see like up there. And when I was pulling those off, I was pulling nails out of there. They're the handmade square nails. And I thought, you know, the guy that I'm pulling nails, the guy nailed in after cutting these things out by hand, which are intricate, and they lasted almost 150 years. And we had to go through and fix some of the rotten spots and inlay some new lumber. But it's just amazing to me. As a matter of fact, I've often said we're carpenters, you know, but not like those guys were carpenters. You can imagine cutting mortise and tenon joints, dovetail joints, fancy miters on crown with a handsaw. I can't imagine it. We got a compound measure, bang, you're done, you know. But those guys, they were the masters. Even my dad, you know, we didn't have, like growing up, there was no cordless drill. You know, we didn't have one. We had a Yankee drill. We thought that was pretty cool. You know, so you drilled a hole and, you know, we sure didn't screw drywall, you nailed it. That's why they pop. Or subfloors. And now I've got a gun, as you guys may have seen, you just walk along and screw the subfloor down while you're standing up. It's a self-feeder. Drywall, same way, self-feeder gun. So, I don't know. I mean, it seems like it takes a long time to do a job now. But boy, they sure got it. That's just wonderful. And I learned, and I still learn, and talk, you know, I thought this was a materials class. I can't keep up with the materials. You know, I mean, they're just constantly. I was telling you about that master bedroom we're doing. The homeowner found a PVC flooring. I've been familiar with PVC flooring. We went over and looked at it, and this place he bought just looks like wood, which I'd seen that before. But this is PVC, and the guy that had a sample, it looked, you know, about this big, and it looked just like marble, just exactly like marble. He had a piece of real marble and a piece of this PVC marble. And he said the difference is, you might spill a glass of red wine on marble, you've got pink marble instead of white marble with that PVC. And it, you know, you got no underlaying, you don't have any concrete board or thin set or mortar. It's bad. So, and it looks the same. So I don't mind buying good marble. And it's $5 a square foot versus whatever, 18 or what marble is. So that's hard to keep. That's really hard to keep up with. It really is. But that's good. You know, and then when you try to get people to use some of the old Gilbert folks especially, well, this is the way we do that now. Well, I didn't do that for 50 years. Like, well, they research this stuff. There's a reason they changed these materials, like ice dam on a roof, or you know, there's just lots of things. Used to be 30-pound felt and shingle it. 90-pound felt in the valleys now. They weave the valleys. There's just, you know, there's just lots of things that change. And You keep up with them, word of mouth kinda, or, of course, there's all kinds of trade magazines. I don't really take them. My dad always did though, but, so.
How many people do you currently work in your business? And then do you find yourself, if you were to add more personnel, be more profitable, less profitable? Or where do you find the balance?
Right now, it's me, another guy, and a part-time guy, and that's it. And it's purposely that way, because I want to be able, and it makes me able to make ends meet. I'm not banking any money. However, I would say, if I were to do, advertise, just put pen in the paper, or maybe even a magnet on the side of the truck or something. Oh, like I say, we're booked up through September anyway, if everything goes well, and usually that probably means late October, the way things usually go. But I think because if I wanted to expand and work more hours of work, and I will as soon as I graduate, depends on how things go. I'll shut it down if I get the job I want. I'll be done. Maybe do some weekend stuff, and evening stuff if I can get a normal 8 to 5, 5 days a week type job, if there is such thing. But I could afford. I mean, I'd have to schedule. Before I did, I would want to have. I'd do a man-hours study, just like we did assignments. I'd think, okay, I got this many jobs, this many hours, this many weeks. And once I figured I could keep a guy at 48 hours, that's how I tried to do it. It's hard though. That's hard. But I think yes, because the jobs would come in. Because I've turned down probably, I'd say 10 jobs, and maybe the last 8 to 10 weeks, just saying, I can't do it. I can't promise you I can get it done. They were outside jobs, and if I'm going to be working until October-ish, I don't want to commit to outside stuff. So, but I also have a garage that the guy wants to turn in. It'll take, for my little crew, that'll take October through mid-November. It takes us longer because we're slower. But and the way I make up for that is I charge less, really. Not a lot less, but some less than going right around our town. But I guess the short answer, if there is one, if with not much effort, yeah, I could expand and probably would increase profit. I think because I still pretty much charge the same rate as I do if I did it by like square foot and had a guy get it done quicker, because I would be paying them less, if that makes sense, but still getting the same amount because we'd be getting it done quicker. It's all not an easy formula for me to figure out, to be quite honest. So.
Earlier you mentioned
I'm sorry.
The home inspector's license. Is there any special requirements needed to get that, or you just pay and take a class?
You need to take a class. The school I went to was, I think, called AHIT, American Home Inspectors Institute, and they're accredited, and they send you books, and of course now it might all be online. They may not send you any hard copies, and they'll send you like foundations and basements will be one segment, and you'll study it, and then you take an online test, and then you go to Champaign and take the state test. You have to score 75%, and that's it. And you have to, I suppose you could just walk in and take it, but you're not going to pass it if you don't take it. Because it covers everything, like one thing I didn't know, for example, and home inspectors are liable. If they miss something, they're liable. That's one reason I didn't do it. Not much money. Once you pay the liability insurance and buy the reporting equipment and stuff like that, it's not really a liability. It's errors and omissions, they call it. But anyway, if you were to be inspecting a house and you're busy and whatever, and you miss that it doesn't have a register, a heat source and a cooling source in one room, that's a requirement. Every room has to have a heat source. And if it's not there and you miss it, then you got to pay to put it in. So I didn't know that, and it gets pretty hairy. The bathroom I was telling you about, where the floor went like this, that home had an inspection. I crawled under there with the home inspector. He paid for that. I was on pocket. He paid for that job because he missed it. And he was a very nice guy. He said, "You're right. I should have caught it." He hadn't crawled under there. And that's the other thing about it. If you decide you might want to do that, big town, good. There are companies in larger areas that you don't have to have all your own stuff. They're big. That's what they do. You know, they said they have a boss, and that'd be a good way to get started. That's not a possibility around this area that I know of. But another thing is to keep in mind. Really, you're not a very popular guy as a home inspector. The realtor doesn't want to take time, and they don't want to hear you say, "Oh, that's bad, and that's bad, and that's really good," you know, because they want to sell it and get that commission. The homeowner, the people trying to sell it, don't want to hear bad stuff because they want to sell it, and the people that are buying it don't want to hear you say, "Oh, that's no good, that's no good, that's no," because they like it, they want to buy it. So and they rush you. And you know, you get a 3-story house with 2 fireplaces and a 1974 furnace, and, you know, an air conditioning unit outside, or 2-zone air conditioned 2 units, and all that takes time. Get up on the roof and make sure there's no negative flow back towards the foundation. There's just lots of, and again, I didn't do it very long, so I assume that stuff would come, you know, it'd stand out like a sore thumb, but it takes time, probably about half a day to do a big house and do it right. And then you've got the paperwork to do. So, you know, in our area, we were getting 200 to 225. Insurance cost about 50 per job, roughly. And you're down to 150, 175 plus a day. It's really what they get to pay. So, you're thinking you might want to go that way. I looked into somebody that has, like, you know, he's a home inspector. The guy that taught, that actually I had to go to one class live. The guy that taught it had like 20 inspectors working for him in the Chicago, Rockford, or someplace where it's quite a bit larger. But
Are you allowed to inspect your own work? Like if you build a house, can you be the home inspector? I didn't think so.
No, as a matter of fact, yeah. When I would inspect homes locally, you know, people knew. I came from a family, I'd say, well, you know, this is, and they'd say, can you fix it? And I could say, no, because, you know, that's conflict of interest. You know, you'd say, yeah, that's broke, that's broke, that's broke, here's my car. You know, so, no, to answer your question. And there's a reason for that. You know, people being dishonest. So.
Yeah, I assume that.
What will you do if you finish a job and you got part of the money first, and you finished everything and you don't get the rest of it for some reason?
That's happened to me only once, believe it or not. It's infuriating. Actually, I'll do that guy a favor. The way I generally do it is I want 1/3 down. I want all materials purchased. Or they can set up a charge account and all. So I'm not eating the materials. And then I want 1/3 down for labor. That's so I can pay my guys and pay my guys well. You know, well, I want 1/3 down, and then 1/3 when we're halfway. When I say we're halfway, and then I want the rest when we're done. And that's always a dollar figure. And so if the estimate was, say it was 30,000, I 10, 10, 10. You know, the guy was a friend of a friend. He said, well, I'll give you 5. But you just come in Friday, and I'll give you whatever you need more. I said, okay, all right. Well, come Friday. His wife was in Indianapolis, and she had the checkbook. And I didn't have any money to pay my guys. So, to answer your question, I'm really all you can do. And I've never had to do that. My dad did. And I know that, Tony, I know how to do it. You put a lien on it. Put a contractor's lien on the property. And they can, I mean, I guess that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. No, luckily, I haven't. But then again, you kind of, I'll be honest, you kind of almost do not a background check, but you ask around if it's a job of any significant size. And you just kind of have a gut feeling or maybe know some things. It's worth asking. Again, small town's different. I don't know what the risk would be much greater. I mean, I don't think Charleston's too big where you could say, hey, what do you know about, you know, joke low down there, but luckily I don't run into that. I've only that one time. And when he didn't pay that one Friday, I just said, well, we're leaving. And then just left his house halfway done. When you pay, it won't come back. Because I did the guy a favor, and he screwed me. So, long and short of it. And I didn't want that.